Example number 1 from lesson 5 now, and we want to graph the function indicated over here, an exponential function. First things first, let's identify the asymptote, which is the 8 at the end. So I have y equals 8, and I'm going to graph that. So I'm going to go to my red highlighter, into my grid, and 8 is going to be, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right over here. So there's where I get a horizontal line across the line y equals 8. And I'll just do that in a dotted broken line to indicate my horizontal asymptote. Now you'll notice that the equation is in the form that I want it to be, in the sense that I have identified my k value as 2. I have my horizontal shift, which is -3. I'm going to start off with my base graph, which is y equals 3 to the exponent x. And I'll use the values -1, 0, and 1. Again, easy choices to make when dealing with exponential functions. So my first value is going to be 0.3, my second one is going to be 1, and my third one is going to be 3. So step number 1, I multiply the y values by a, and the x values by 1 over k. So in this case, k is 2. Therefore, my k value is going to be, what I multiply by is going to be 1 over 2. So my x values now become -0.5, 0, and 0.5. My y values get multiplied by the -2. That's the a value in front there. So I'm going to get -0.6, -2, and -6. Finally, I add d to my y values and c to my x values. So in this case, my c value, let's go back to our equation over here. My c value is the opposite of -3. So I'm going to have my x values +3, and my y values will be +8, which is just the number at the end. So what do I end up with? I have a 2.5 here, I have a 3 here, and a 3.5 here. As for my y values, I get 7.4, 6, and 2. So if I were to plot these points, 2.5 is going to be, 2.5 comma 7.4. So 2.5, 7.4 is going to be roughly here. And then I get 3 comma 6. So 3 comma 6 is going to be roughly over here. And then I get 3.5 comma 2. So 3.5 and 2. And one point which I should probably identify is my my y-intercepts, which just means in my original equation I plug in x equals 0. And I actually did the calculations and found out that f of 0 is going to give me approximately 7.9, which makes sense based on this graph here. So it looks like the pattern of my points is like this. There you have it. So my y-intercept is 7.9. My asymptote is y equals 8. My range is all y values such that y is less than 8. And my domain is all real numbers. And the function is decreasing. And finally, I have listed all my my transformations, the ones that are going on here in this portion. Okay, so we have a reflection, compression by a factor of 0.5, horizontal shift to the right 3 units, and a vertical shift up 8 units. And there is your example number 1. Here in example number 2, we're beginning with a function, but it's not in the form that we want it to be, because we have to be able to read off the transformations. So what I'm going to do is transform this part, okay, specifically what's in the exponent, into a legible form. So I have 2 times 1 over 3 to the exponent 0.5, which is what I'm going to factor out, x minus 2, because 1 divided by 0.5 is 2, and then minus 2. So our asymptote in this case is y equals -2, and if I were to graph that, again using the red, -2 is going to be over here, broken line, there we go. And now let me put in my x values. So I have -1, 0, and 1. The base function is 1/3 to the exponent x, y equals 1 over 3 to the exponent x, and I'm going to get a 3, 1, and 0.3 for my y values. So the y values get multiplied by a, which is 2 in this case, the x values by 1 over k. Remember, k is 1/2, so therefore the reciprocal is going to be 2. So my x values get multiplied by 2, and so do my y values. What do I end up with? -2, 0, 2, and 6, 2, and 0.6. Finally, to my x values, I'm going to add 2 because it's the opposite of the -2 here, and I'm going to subtract 2 from the y's. So I end up with 0, 2, and 4, and 4, 0, and -1.4 roughly. So what do these look like? Let me go to my graph. I have 0 and 4, which is going to be this point here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have, what else? 2 and 0, which is going to be over here. And then I have 4 and 1.4, -1.4. Which is going to be roughly over here. So my graph, again, the general shape is looking like that. Y-intercept, well, we can just read those off the table over here. My asymptote, we determined that was -2. My range is all y values, such that y is greater than -2. My domain is all x values. The function is decreasing because if you notice, it's going downwards. Okay, the y values are getting smaller and smaller. And finally, I have all my transformations listed here before time for you to read off. So vertical stretch, horizontal shift, and a vertical shift, everything together. This is a pretty standard type of test question. Definitely you'll find in the test upcoming.